Hello, hello, lovely people. Welcome to episode 26 of the Devrel Show. Always a pleasure to do that show. You know why now, if you're not new to the show, because, I just love talking with my guests. They're intelligent, brilliant people. All of them were amazing. And this won't be different today with my guest today for that episode. So I'm with Jones. How is life, Jones?
Hey Fred, life is amazing. In fact, very colorful and bright as well today because it's Diwali.
I know, right? So happy Festival of Lights to you and everyone celebrating it.
Thanks, Fred. Happy Diwali to you too and everyone who's celebrating it across the world.
And yeah, thanks for taking the time on such an important holiday for you, and especially because it's early for me in terms of like doing the show. We usually go like 3 p.m.s in Eastern time, so now it's noon. But it's late for you, like it's 9:30, about 9:30. So thanks also for taking the time again in a holiday that is important and at the same time let's say quite late for a live stream, but happy to have you here.
Thank you, Fred, for hosting it and inviting me to be one of the guests and speaker for the day.
My pleasure. Thanks for being here. So Johns, please let us know, who are you?
Okay, that's always the hard question to answer.
I know.
But yeah, I'm Jones Zachariah Noel. I work as a senior developer advocate at Freshworks. I am part of the Devrel team at Freshworks, which focuses on developer experience and building a lot of advocacy with the products that we offer with Freshworks. It's a SaaS company. If you haven't heard about Freshworks itself, apart from it, I'm also the AWS Serverless Hero. I come from a background of being a full stack developer and also transitioning into a cloud architect in serverless at a startup in Bangalore, India. And I worked with the AWS team with various things, be it on the serverless front, and AWS recognized me as the serverless hero. Apart from it, I also do run AWS user group Bengaluru here in India. And also, I write a lot of stuff about serverless, be it on my blog or the newsletter called the Serverless Terminal. I do a podcast as well called The Zach Show Talking AWS with a community member and also a hero from New Zealand. So, yeah, it's all over the place.
You have a buzzy life, my friend, but like it seems like it's quite interesting. So a couple of questions about all that. So the first one, just for the sake of like people who would not know, what is an AWS Hero? Can you tell a little bit more about that program?
Yep. So the AWS Developer Relations team run this program called AWS Heroes, where they recognize folks who are contributing and building the community in their local regions, be it as heroes who are building user groups, heroes who are focused on specific areas. Like I focus on serverless. There's also heroes with background of ML heroes. There are also container heroes, and also there is something called as DevTool heroes who who focus on the DevTool experience of AWS, and they contribute to AWS, be it writing blogs, evangelizing about AWS, working closely with the product teams, even running user groups, or even even things where they're building a lot of podcast video content around AWS.
Yeah, that's
So
amazing. It's always something wonderful. Like you're gonna see those kind of programs in usually like bigger company like AWS, Microsoft as one, Google as like Google Expert, Microsoft as Microsoft MVPs. So those are really great programs to first. It's a way to thank people in the community for doing like great stuff around those kind of product, but also a way to empower them. Hopefully, I don't know about the AWS Hero, but like for the programs that I worked on, we always try to find a win-win situation. So it's not like just trying to get cheap labor from people that are excited about our product, but really trying to find like that win-win situation. which is something that I'm really looking forward to be able to do at Construct, where I work right now. For those of you that didn't know, I didn't change job. I still work at CubeFirst. It's just because we rebranded the company recently from CubeFirst to Construct, because we don't have only one product now anymore. So it just made sense to have a company name that was different from the product. But I feel like we're reaching a point where the community and the products are mature enough that we can start to invest in having that kind of programs, because there is enough excitement right now to have like external contributors and people start to write about us and talk about us. So I want to be able to, foster a healthy, lovely communities of heroes or MVPs or experts around our technology. So and it's part of developer relation. I mean, like to be able to like work on those kind of programs. So personally, really looking forward to being able to do that. And by the way, speaking of that, just want to thank my employer, Construct, as a sponsor, because I just named them. So I think it was a good time to thank them as a sponsor for the Devrel show. You talk about so many other things, Jones, that I have so many questions. But let me just start with the kind of like common question about your experience that I ask most of my guests. So right now you are a senior developer advocate at Freshworks. What
Yep.
does that mean? Like, what's your job? Because developer relation is developer advocacy. It can be a little bit different depending on the company, depending on the size of the team, depending on like the focus and the goals. So what's your role?
Yep. Uh, Developer relations is very perspective to companies. That's well put. Um at Freshworks, developer advocates work with the respect of building a lot of developer experience for our tools that we have. So Freshworks as a company, it's a SaaS product, right? And we have multiple offerings. And on top of all of these products, there is a developer platform where our partners can build integrations with third-party systems. They can have their own apps and publish it on our marketplace, on Freshworks Marketplace. They could even do a lot of things with respect to working with our customers and building custom integrations as custom apps, all of these things with the developer platform. And of course, using the product APIs, right? So when you're doing a lot of these things, the experience of building an app comes from on your local IDE. How do you do it? You have a CLI, which gives you a bootstrapped code, and the developer relations team owns the developer experience of that CLI. So we call it FDK, Freshworks Developer Kit. So we own the developer experience of it, and also we launched something called as Freddy Copilot. So we own the Freddy Copilot experience, building a lot of knowledge bases for the Freddy Copilot, because it's LLM. You need data to train it, and it needs the right data. How do you get the right data? It's from docs. It's from developer relations who are working with developers, because you need the right context, the right way to tell that, okay, I'm asking a question. How do I make API calls? If it just uses NPM package of Axios, it's irrelevant, right? And somebody from developer relations does know, okay, this is not the right answer. How do I do it? It's building knowledge bases. So developer relations owns writing a lot of knowledge bases. We also do a lot of enablement content, be it as tutorials, guides, and building a lot of sample repositories on GitHub. So yeah, and we do have a community. So it's called Freshworks Developer Community. We own it. We try to answer all the queries that's coming up from the multiple developers, the developer partners that we have, all of it. So yeah, it's a lot of hats to wear.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about developer advocacy, developer relation, it's multiple hats in usually one person. So we're gonna come back a little more about Freddy's Copilot. That's gonna be your demo when we're done with like the talking part. But yeah, speaking of, before we go, that just want to have no safe architect who say hi guys, hi whoever you
Hi.
are, because that username doesn't ring a bell to me. But like, maybe we know each other, maybe you don't. In any cases, hi and welcome to the Devrel show. You mentioned your employer, Freshworks, and that rings a bell to me, but maybe it doesn't ring a bell to everyone. So, what exactly is Freshworks doing? What's the business?
Yeah. So, like I said, it's a SaaS company, and we have a suite of products. We are into CRM, we are into help desk and ITSM. You may have heard Fresh Desk, which is our help desk solution, and help desk offering, Fresh Service as our ITSM, and Fresh Sales as our CRM solution, right? So, these are the products that we have, and we have about 60K. The last time I checked, it was 60K. I'm sure it would have grown as well. So over 60K customers globally who are using
Nice.
our products, and all of the customers, right? They have this common concern, common problem to solve, where they ask, okay, I have my data elsewhere. I want to get it into Freshworks ecosystem, right? And I have my data in Freshworks ecosystem. I want to get it elsewhere. I want to move the data around. That's exactly where we have something called as Freshworks Developer Platform. So Freshworks as a company has three products, and on top of all the products, we have a developer platform which developers can use it, customers can use it to build all of these custom integrations. That if they're a partner and if there's something building something that's useful for all our customers. They can even publish it on our marketplace. So Freshworks has a marketplace where you can publish it. Say, for example, you have data on Jira and you want to get it into Freshdesk. There is a Jira connector app on our marketplace, which customers who don't have to go through the hassle of building all that integration, they can just get their credentials, use it, install it. That's it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And just before I forget, because you mentioned a lot of things you were doing, I don't know if you mentioned your newsletter, but I had this in links that I wanted to share. So, what's that newsletter? I guess the name said it all. The serverless terminal. So
Yeah. So this serverless terminal is the newsletter that I run. It's mainly focused on serverless because I came from a background of being a serverless developer, a full stack developer turned into serverless backend developer, and then into serverless architecture. So I worked in a startup in Bangalore where back in the day when serverless was very new, and people always had this question, hey, what is this new thing called the lambda functions, or what is this thing called API gateway, how do I use it, right? So I started writing a lot of blogs, and people read lot of my blogs, and they reached out to me telling, hey, we know that your blogs are there, we see similar content also around there. How do I read all these serverless related content in one place? That's when I decided about 2.5 years ago that, okay, let me start a newsletter called the Serverless Terminal. It's 15-day ones, or bi-monthly. I don't know the right term for it because it's very controversial, right? Fortnightly, bi-monthly, or 15 days ones. So I do this on a 15-day period where I try to collate all the serverless content for that 15 days, also around the new announcements in the serverless space, and also have events about serverless. A lot of these events are happening, developer conferences around the globe. So I try to collate all of them into a newsletter and publish it.
that's amazing. I have gigantic respect for people writing newsletters because it is something I hate to do so much, and I don't know why. I just hate doing a newsletter. Funny enough, I was talking with we just hired a technical writer at Construct not long ago, and I was talking with her and about the fact that I'm so happy she's going to take over the newsletter because first we don't have a newsletter. I sent one once and I hated it, and it's something that I rarely had to do in my developer relations career because we always it was only always someone else on the team, and now I was like, oh yeah, like we would like to have one, but like I have so many things on my plate, so it's not a priority. But at the same time, I think it's important to have one. But I hate doing that, and she was like, yeah, I'm gonna be able to do that, and I was like, yes. This is not something I like to do, but I appreciate so much people doing those. So good job on doing that. Um, you were talking about your past experience. And I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile right now. You know, you started as a software developer, software engineer, and you move as a cloud architect. And after that, you went to a role of developer advocate. Um, what happened? I mean, why did you decide to say let's move from a architect or software development role to become a developer advocate?
Yeah, so as a developer advocate, you work with developers, and as a cloud architect, you work with customers. So the
Mm.
persona was something that I was looking for, and when I first got to know about developer relations, I was like, hey, this is something that I do, and I can talk in developer language. I don't have to, uh, what do you call it, customers language it up.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
it's always hard when you have a really cool technical thing and you have to boil it down to a very layman terms of the solution so that the customer can understand it. I found it hard, but I really enjoyed that part of my career as well. But when I heard about developer relations, I'm like, hey, this is good. And also the fact about one piece about developer relations is also the advocacy, right? You work with developers, you work with partners, you work with customers, all of these people, and you get their feedback. Using that feedback, you take it back to product and engineering, tell them, hey, this is something in our product that needs real attention. You really need to focus on these things. And somebody is really enjoying this feature. So giving that feedback back to product and engineering, taking things back as
yeah.
feedback was something that really inspired me to move into developer relations because as a cloud architect, I always saw that as a feedback, and I was like, okay, we will improve on, but we are not working on it right now, right? So uh, I always saw that those feedbacks are received, but they are not actioned. But as a developer advocate, you try to build actionable items around the feedback and take it to product engineering so that one or the other day it does see the sunlight out into production, and somebody who really gave that feedback tells comes back and tells you, dude, I started using this and it's really helped me, right? So that's something that's really inspired me to move into developer relations.
I like you saying that because bringing feedback to the product team is one of the important part of the role. This is why also about I don't know 10 years ago most people changed their title to evangelist to advocate. Even if we were doing the same role in most company, I mean, like I'm doing the same thing right now as a developer advocate. That when my title was a technical evangelist, it was always for me a two-way street, meaning I'm not just evangelizing about the product. I'm also bringing the feedback to the product team. But people saw the word evangelist as like you're basically just preaching, which I don't think it was never the case. It was always like a bi-directional relation with the developers, and it is so important. I've seen so many companies failed because they were not listening to their community, because they were not listening to their customers, and it's not always to get the feedback, especially because like the people's going to be mostly vocal about your product are the people that are pissed off, and they're going to go on social media and they're going to be annoyed about your product, but really trying to get like detailed valuable feedback. You need to create a relation with the people in your community. You need to create a relation with your users, and even if it's just to have someone tell you like, hey, good job on the new feature, it's really what I needed to use your product. It's so important, and that set the foundation where you build that community, you get that feedback, you get those people that test your product. So you reach a level where, like, hey, you know what? It's mature enough that we can hire a salesperson that will focus to convert those like potential qualified lead to like paid customers. But like I feel, and I'm preaching for my own stuff. I mean, I'm doing Devrel for a long time, so I know and I feel it's important. People may disagree, but I think we really help. I was talking with someone who's starting in the developer advocacy recently, and she felt like she was not like people were not seeing what she was bringing on the table, and it was like, remember, you're at the top of the funnel. you get the visibility, you get the credibility. And it's not, we're not the only people doing that in the business, but that's a big chunk of our part. You get the feedback, you help to build the product by like helping the product team to go in the right direction based on what you hear. And like all that growth that you bring goes at the top of the funnel, so someone else along the line can pick the right people and make them become paid customers, or pick paid customers so they change to like a bigger tier, stuff like that. So and all that to say, the feedback part is, I think, a critical foundation of that. Like that is one of the biggest benefit that you can get from my point of view. So
Yeah, I totally agree with that. One thing that you called out was different companies perceive developer relations as, hey, uh, as a developer relations engineer or developer advocate or Devrel, the title says a lot of things, but what are you bringing to the table? And especially startups, I notice these patterns, especially in startups, where people say that, hey, as a developer advocate, you want us to grow our product. Probably things like GitHub stars has to grow exponentially,
mm,
probably get X number of adoption. These things are the KPIs, right? And as a developer advocate, it's as a role, it's hard, or uh, it's not practical enough to say that, hey, these are the metrics that you're going to be measured on. But things like getting X number of feedback, working on certain developer experience part of the features, and also a lot of things around content could be an ideal way to measure developer relations. So, uh, yeah, feedback, community, content, of course, code, because you're a developer. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that, and those are KPIs, as you said, because they're an indicator that like the work that you're doing slowly bring fruits, but like it's always a medium to long term type of impact because we deal with human and in a healthy way too. I mean, like my job is not to force anyone to use us, and don't get me wrong. The only time where I would say put my foot down, let's say in terms of like what is not developer relation from my point of view, is like I don't want any goals that are tied to the dollar amounts, like how much sales we're doing. Not that I don't think it's important, it's critical. Don't get me wrong. If we don't sell, I don't have a job, I don't have a paycheck, and I pretty love having both of those. I need them to make a living. It's just because if I want to continue to be credible with people, if I want to continue to really create that relation, if I want to like build that trust with people, I do not need that pressure of like, oh, I need to sell that amount of money. I need to reach my quota. I have other quotas. I have other goals that I need to achieve as developer advocacy. But again, I'm helping like sales in any ways I can, in the sense that like I'm gonna create contents that gonna help them to talk to a new lead, that gonna help them to close a deal, either video, text-based contents. I always ask sales team when there is one other company, what are the questions that you always answer? And you have no link to send to those people, you have to explain them. I'm going to update the documentation. I'm going to write a tutorials. I'm going to put all the efforts where it can be beneficial for developer relation, but also beneficial for you to help you sell. But my job is not to sell the product. My job is to like fill, basically to educate people, help people being successful, and fill the top of the funnel, if I often say. So but again, going back to the feedback part, I think it's really an important part. You need to listen to your users, and you need to see where the trends going in the feedback, so it helps you to either prioritize different items on your roadmap or change part of your roadmap. Yeah, just listen to your people.
Yep. uh, Especially companies that are in the developer tools or developer space, right? Feedbacks are critical because, especially when you're rolling out products, you roll out a huge feature which is not well thought of, or not friendly for the developer to adapt. It becomes more as there is a feature but nobody uses. That's what the complaint you'll hear a lot, right? And developer relations, the function really helps you to get that initial feedbacks, be it in phases like if the product is in beta, or if it's publicly available, if it's still not GA, and you still have that window where you can listen to people, hear those feedbacks. And there are edge cases that even companies that are huge enough to think through a lot of things, do a lot of brainstorming, will miss out those edge cases. And these comes from actual developers who are using these products, right? So those feedback really helps not just for building that developer relations part of it, but also to improvise the product, which in turn improves the sales, right? So yeah.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you. And another question for you. So you've been in that, it's your first role as a developer advocate, but you're still doing that for like 2 years and a half now. How is life? What's the good thing about developer relation? What's the thing that you're like, yeah, maybe if that would not be part of my job, I would be a little bit happier. If you feel comfortable to share those, always curious to know what people like or dislike to do related to the job.
Yeah, uh, like I mentioned, feedback still remains the. Oh, hi Ram, nice to see you. So, uh, feedback still remains as one of the top things that I love to do. Uh, when I joined, and it was a few months in at Freshworks, we were revamping one of our features, and I got that opportunity to own that feature end to end. I think we had a little chat on LinkedIn with Kaustav, so I was working along with Kaustav back then, and both of us we owned the DX of that feature and owning it end to end, meaning uh, when before development we own the DX part of it, where Kaustav and me are the developer relations team. We work together to improvise certain things on the feature itself, and when things were ready, we were literally the lab rats who were testing the product first and telling, hey, this certain things don't work, or this certain things are confusing. So we acted as lab rats and gave those initial feedback. Also, when it was in the beta phase, we went out, reached out to a couple of folks in the community. We told them about this feature. We gave them a rundown of how do you use it, what's the real need for this feature, all of that. And we gave them access to try it out. When they tried it out, we went on office hours with those developers, got that initial feedback, understanding, hey, if you're trying to build this with this feature, what worked for you, what didn't work for you. We got some amazing feedback, and a lot of things that didn't work were also addressed when we went into uh, when we went into
Yeah.
GA, a lot of things were uh, addressed. So I had that sense of satisfaction telling that, hey, I got certain feedback from our developers in our community, and the product engineering actually listened to it. We worked on it, and we were able to ship it in the GA version. So that's something that I really highlight as part of my Devrel career. But yeah, certain things, uh, what's not so good about it, right? Um, well, developer relations, because you wear a lot of hats, things are not very defined, and a lot of ad hoc things comes your way. Like, hey, Jones, we are working with this partner. Can you hop on a call? We have to explain this. I'm like, you have zero context about what's really happening, and you get a lot of these ad hoc things. As a Devrel, that's usual, and that's something that I'm not very fond of because no one likes surprises, right? Or shocks. So yeah,
Yeah, no,
that's
I
probably the highlight.
agree. I agree. It's an interesting thing. There's a lot of like I've been spending the last 10 plus years trying to educate people about developer relation because it's really misunderstood in terms of like exactly what we do. With reason, because as we said before, it is a little bit different from one company to the other compared to like an engineer or a developer. It's clear the role is the same at every company. It's just like your focus, your language you're going to use, the technology you're going to use, the product you're going to work on is different. But the role is like, hey, you code, you build stuff. It's simple. Not simple to do, but like, I mean, it's simply defined. Where it comes to developer relations, it's not always the case. But so there's a lot of misconception about that. And funny that you were talking about, the ownership and like the fact that you were testing and everything, because just recently, actually yesterday, I have a Devrel channel in the Slack at work, and I just decided to update the title to list all the things that developer relation owns. Because we
Mm,
hire a lot of new people, it may not have been clear exactly what Devrel owns. And when I say what Devrel owns, is like we're responsible of those things, meaning that like everything we own can be helpful for any other department. It's just like this is some things we build, this is something we had the ownership, and I wanted to make it clear because, as you said, we do so many things that it's not always clear when can you bring the Devrel person, when should you leave the Devrel person outside because it's not part of our priority. And it's probably like it's not because we don't want to help, it's just we already have so much on our plate that we need to focus on like what makes sense for a role based on like the goals and things we want to achieve. And in that title where I had like, I don't know, like 20 things that like Devrel owns, which was not even like the full list, but one of them was what did I wrote? I wrote customer zero. And you
mm,
said it when you were like, hey, we're testing stuff. For me, Devrel is customer zero, meaning that like once the engineering team are like, hey, we have a better version or it's good enough for you to start to test it, I need to test it. First, not because I don't trust about the engineering team, especially where I work right now, Construct or an engineering team, they're amazing. But because I need to understand the technology to be able to, if you don't have a technical writer, to be able to write blog posts, to be able to update the documentation, to be able to create video contents, to decide does it make sense to put this in a newsletter, does it make sense to do a live stream or videos about it. So I need to understand things. I need to understand them because I'm going to need to talk to users about them, those new features or there's issues that were fixed. I'm going to need to answer questions, support my users for them to be successful. And at the same time, as I said, with all respect for the engineering team, and I used to be a developer full time, and I know how it is. You code, you create something, you know how it's working. So usually the way you test it is like how the user should use it. Where like usually when I go and I testing, I go in all freaking directions and I try to destroy the thing, not by lack of respect for the engineering team. On the contrary, I want to be sure that like that's going to be robust because I know the users will probably won't use it as they were expected to use it. So I want to be sure that like I'm going to be the first person to report things if there is anything. So once we launch the thing, we have something that is even more bulletproof than it was. And again, I'm not saying that like, oh my god, I have such a huge ego that like if Fred is looking at the application, it means that everything is going to be perfect. Not at all. But it's just one more person that don't have the same context as the engineers that can test it and that can provide feedback to the team to help us like deliver continuously a better product that we already have. So yeah, customer zero is kind of like important to me, part of it.
I really liked how you put it across because coming from a developer background, when you're building something, you always build with a happy path, or when you're testing, you test with a happy path, right? You don't really look at the errors or the dumb things or the what somebody who's very new to the system would do it, right? So, uh, as a developer relations person, whatever the title is, you go back and you try to test it with that persona of a developer who's using it for the very first time. And that is exactly what brings in a lot of cases that could have been missed from the engineering team, right? Even minor things like, uh, say, for example, you're making an API call, and if the product does not support adding custom headers, it's a problem for majority of the developers, right? Because they need to add their own custom headers. And as a developer, you think, hey, why would anybody use custom headers? I'm allowing them with some predefined headers that should work. So you always bring that perspective of a developer because you work with those developers, right? And that's really an amazing thing, because community and the knowledge of what each community member, or as a community, what's really expected of this feature, you bring that you bring that perspective.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So we have a question from the audience, but just before you mentioned Gustav, that was a blast from the past in the discussion on LinkedIn. I think it was at least 11 years ago, 10 to 11 years ago, when I was a developer advocate at Mozilla. Gustav was like a crazy, amazing, lovely person, part of like the community. He was, and I don't know if he still is, but like a little bit the equivalent of like the AWS Hero that we had at Mozilla, which were like the Mozilla Remo. And yeah, just an amazing person. So I was like, oh my God, I didn't talk or see him since forever. The tech industry is big and small at the same time. So it's just amazing when you see familiar faces.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Especially Devrel, you know a lot of people in
oh,
that space, so you bump into people.
exactly, exactly. And I'm gonna give myself permission to call you Ram because this is what John said earlier. So Ram was saying hi, hi Zach, hi Fred. Nice to see you all together in this episode. Nice for you to join us and watch the episode. And Ram has questions. I have a question. That's a good start. Do you consider yourself a AI advocate in the dev tool space, or are you a developer tooling advocate in the AI space? I love the question.
Okay, so firstly, I am not completely into the AI space. So, in terms of what I do at Freshworks, when you're trying to build a lot of these apps and customization, right? Today AI is out there as co-pilots, which are companions, coding companions. So I talk about the tooling, but not really an AI advocate. Or I talk about the dev tool that's using AI, more for helping our developers to improve productivity, leave out the mundane things, right? Or if it's somebody who's getting started, and as developers, people don't really go into docs and read things. That's even I did that in the past. So we don't really go into the docs and
Mm-hmm.
read out stuff. So the Copilot,
I know.
or the coding companion out there, helps you learn a lot of things about the feature. Be the small things like, how do I do this? It generates snippets of codes. It generates the steps for you to follow. All of that is available. So it improves developer productivity, certainly, and that's what I advocate for, but not really an AI advocate. Or we are not totally in the AI space. AI is more as a companion for the products and the developer platform that we have.
Yeah, no, great answer. And titles sometimes are not always relevant. I know it helps people understand what you're doing, but even myself, like my title is developer advocate at Construct. But I don't talk to developer that much. Actually, I talk mostly to like DevOps people. I talk to like people that get up. So I talk to developer though, but it's not like when my product was like specifically only for developers. Like when my focus was like a developer SDK or developer API. Now it's open to like anyone who wants to deploy on cloud native and wants to create community production Kubernetes cluster easily with our product Kubefirst. So, but I understand that was a great question. I liked it. On that note, you already started to talk about Copilot a little bit. I think it's time for us to move to the demo part because we talked already for like 40 minutes. I would like you to demo us the Freddy's AI Copilot that we were talking about, so people understand a little more like what it is, how they can use it, if it makes sense for them or not.
Yeah. Can we get asking? Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Fred. And like I said, this is a coding companion that we are building with Freshworks. So when you try to build apps with Freshworks, there are a lot of copilots out there, be it even ChatGPT or GitHub Copilot. A lot of these things that helps you uh, build a lot of code and snippets of code. But the Freddy AI Copilot for developers, it is more in terms of how does Copilot help you to build apps in Freshworks context, because a lot of these things are built with JavaScript on the front end and on the serverless execution side of things. So when you're trying to build them with Freshworks, you need to know a lot of unknowns, right? And for somebody who's beginning fresh, it's a learning curve. And Freddy Copilot helps you to understand these things feature by feature. We do have a bunch of things that we offer as part of Freddy Copilot. So I'll go into a few things which Freddy Copilot and specifies and stresses on. So we give you this experience of building apps with Freshworks in a much easier way, because you don't have to toggle between windows of documentation. You don't have to go through different tutorials and guides and all of it. Yeah, you can do it, but if you want something in your own IDE, it's readily available as VS Code extension. And you can just ask things in a conversational way if you already have a use case, because most of the times when you're building on top of Freshworks ecosystem, it's a use case that you're trying to build. Things like, hey, how do I integrate Fresh Service, that's our ITSM offering, with PagerDuty or with Zendesk or any other third-party systems or SaaS offerings out there. And when you're trying to do this, you would have to know a lot of unknowns in the both ends of the products, right? Be it even the third-party side of the things and even the Freshworks side of things. So when you're doing this, Freddy Copilot gives you a lot of code snippets, helps you migrate a lot of code. It even gives you, based on the use case that you give, it generates a boilerplate code so that you can just run it and test it out. Yeah, of course, it's Gen AI, so a lot of things you may have to go and update things, and you may have to change it based on the compliance, based on certain things that you're trying to build, because Gen AI is not 100%, right? And it can only give you things that you are getting started with. You can understand a lot of things. It's a coding companion. So think of this as the days when we used to do a lot of pair programming, right? Back in the day, as developers, we all would have done some pair programming where we would have paired up with a fellow developer, try to build stuff, ideate a lot of things, and do it. But today, AI is your coding companion, and you can do it at the freedom of your own IDE. So that's Freddy Copilot. You can visit freshworks.dev/play. It's still under beta and you can try out things, but you may have to know certain context about Freshworks before and when you're trying it out. Let me go to one of the this is a recorded demo, because it's Gen AI, and every time you ask, there could be certain differences, and I try to get the best recording out. So I try to record this, and here it is. So Freddy Copilot is available as a VS Code extension. So you install it from the VS Code or Visual Studio Marketplace, install it, then you go and say that I want to build things from scratch. I do have a use case, so I say, okay, I want to build an app that integrates with PagerDuty incidents into my Fresh service. I have certain things with the UI that I specified has to be displayed. Yeah. So yeah, and it understood based on Freshworks context where this app is being rendered. So Fresh Service as a product, you can render this app in different places. It could either be as full page, it could be in the place where the ticket is in the sidebar. So all of these things. So you can select where this app has to render. If in case you already have a screenshot, you can add that screenshot, and Freddy Copilot will look into the screenshot or a Figma design and try to generate the UI for it. So if it's a Figma, you need a Figma API key. In this case, I'm just using a screenshot. You can see that I gave this all these details in terms of the use case, the screenshot, and it generated me a app. A boilerplate code app is ready to run. So what I could do is, with Freddy Copilot, you don't have to go through the hassle of running CLI commands. You just have one-click action buttons available with Freddy. So you could hit a button and it'll run the app. And when it runs, it gives you a link that you can open into your own Freshworks instance. You can install the app, simulate the installation by giving certain details of your Freshworks account. And when that is done, yeah, of course, when you're installing, you would need PagerDuty API key, which you'll get it from the PagerDuty side of things. You can also see that it gave you a UI, and it's literally same as the screenshot that I gave. So I didn't have to go around build these things out. Of course, as a full stack engineer, UI is something that I've worked on, but not really my area of expertise. And UI always, I find things hard. Thanks to Freddy Copilot, this really helps me to get the UI right off an image. And you can also see that with just a button click, it's doing the needed API call to PagerDuty and getting the details, listing them on the UI that's created. Yeah, that's the recorded part of things, but that's
Yeah,
one use case. Yeah,
we have Ram that said about the recording, but like, isn't spontaneity part of the fun? With a big smile after. I understand both sides, especially when the demo can be unpredictable. You want to be sure that like what's going to happen is going to be a good result. But yeah, live demos or something too. So good
yep,
for sharing that. But you wanted to show the application also running in VS Code, I think.
yep, yep. So yeah, live demos are really fun, but when you're playing around with AI and it's unpredictable, you don't want to risk it. Yeah, so,
But
certain
you said good
things.
demo though.
Thanks, Ram. That's one side of things of what Freddy Copilot is capable of, but it also is capable of a lot of other things. So, in case if you already have a piece of code and you don't know who actually authored the code and you want to understand what this piece of code does, you can even ask Freddy to explain this piece of code. And this is live, so anything can happen. Yep. So it's trying to intercept the piece of code, giving me things about, hey, what are these specific things that I do? For instance, $request.invoke is very contextual in Freshworks. So it's even told me, hey, it has to, it provokes to it. Okay, it has to be invokes to a predefined request template named get incidents, which is also generated using this method. All of this is available. So in case if you're trying to understand this piece of code, it gives you a detailed explanation. Although in this code it gave me commands, but without the commands it would be hard to understand. And
Mhm.
Freddy Copilot can help you do that. In case if it's a really complex piece of function or a snippet of code, you can even refactor it. So you can ask Freddy to refactor, and it gives you a bunch of things that you could do to. Yep, it gave me a snippet of code. It even explained what are those changes. So it's that easy for somebody who's trying to make changes on an existing code base. And one other thing that we also support, this is still launched and we are still testing it out, but one other thing that Freddy Copilot is capable of migrating as developers, right? You build stuff, it's available in production, and people are using it, and the platform comes in, tells you, hey, you have to migrate your code to X platform to an platform number because there are a lot of enhancements, and this involves you to migrate a lot of things, right? So what Freddy is capable of is also telling people, hey, there is an app. How do I migrate? It gives you steps to migrate. It even migrates the complete uh, app into a latest platform version. And I mean, it really helps the developer to do mundane tasks. And nobody really loves or enjoys to migrate code, right? So, Freddy Copilot is capable of a lot of these things. Again, it's in context of Freshworks, and we as developer relations, we own writing a lot of these KBs. So when we are trying to do a lot of these things and Freddy Copilot and the LLM trying to explain you, it is very accurate in Freshworks context because you can know that the developer relations team has written the KBs for it. and we have an engineering team that's really built an amazing uh, uh, pipeline of things under the hood that's doing a wonderful fetch and retrieval of these KBs, trying to summarize it up and using those KBs as context and using your code as context, doing a lot of refactor. So you can really trust what Freddy Copilot can explain you. But that said, it's again Gen AI and it's not 100% right. So you might have to go back, make certain changes on your own decision.
That I mean, with a name like that, it's trustworthy. I mean, Freddy, it's close to Fred, so obviously we need to trust it. Sorry, folks. Sorry, Jones. My internet went down for like a second during the show. I don't know if I was still there or frozen, but I had to reconnect to the StreamYard, and I came back, and the show was still going on. So that's amazing. Sorry about that, and thanks for doing that, and thanks for the demo. That's amazing. Anything else you want to talk about, Freddy Coppola? I feel like you have said like the really amazing stuff right now. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to share about.
Yeah, I give a rundown of the capabilities that it has. So yeah, I'm good.
Wonderful.
In case you have any questions, you can even try it out and visit Freshworks community.freshworks.dev. I don't think I shared this link. I just put it in the chat. You can even visit here, and if you do try it out and you have any questions or you have any feedback, you can post them here. And the developer relations team puts an ear here, so we do listen to things out here.
That's important. Developer relations team listening to the community is where the power come from. It helps with the feedback cycle, and just trying to make people happy. I know it's not always easy. It's not always possible to make everyone happy, but if you are listening, it means like you're a human company and you really care about your people. You really care about your users and your customers. So that's amazing. So I feel we're reaching the end of the show here. Do you have any? I'm talking with a lot of recently with a lot of people that start in developer relation or people that want to move into developer relation. Since you've did the jump in your last career switch, it's been a while though, so now you've passed like the new part of the job. You have experience, but like, is there anything you would like to share to someone who is starting in the role or someone who would like to move to developer relation? I think you could have great feedback for that.
Yeah, if it's a career switch between coming from a background of developer and moving to developer relations, that's really something that I vouch for because I see a lot of people starting off as devrels, but they're not being developer, which in my opinion, means that yeah, you have to be a developer first and then move into developer relations. So have some period of time in your career where you're actually doing things, building on certain technologies, breaking stuff, all of these things, and then move into developer relations because the experience that you get being a developer uh, helps you get a lot of that perspective out, especially for Devrel, because uh, but a lot of things and a lot of strategies that you would have to take, a lot of decisions that you would have to take, a lot of uh, things that you have to call out are all based on these perspective of a developer. And you being from a developer background really helps. So somebody who's really looking into moving to DevRel, I say be a developer first and then move into DevRel. Uh, Fred, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, technology is hard. Thanks. I agree with that. I know some people see this as like gatekeeping, saying like, oh yeah, you need to be a developer, but at the same time, as developer advocate, we are a developer. We just don't work on product full time. But like, we need to code to write tutorials. We need to code for the docs. We need to code to write like demo application using your SDK or API. We need to be able to do technical support. We need to be able to be credible. Also, we need to be credible when we talk to people, which means that like we broke things, we put a server down at some point, we build the application, we work with customers, we know the pain of of being a developer and the joy of it. So I believe also that it's important. A couple of years ago, some company had a trend where they were hiring like influencers that didn't have like a lot of technical backgrounds to be developer advocate, and I guess it works for some of them depending on the type of role, but usually it's a developer advocate, which mean or developer relation, which means that like it's a technical role, so you need to be technical. So I agree with that. I don't want to do some gatekeeping when it comes to the role. Actually, I welcome everyone who wants to become developer advocate, but it's just going to make your life easier if you have that experience, and it's going to resonate a lot more with developers, because let's be honest, we are a difficult audience as developers, because we have our habits, we have the technology we like and we hate, we have really strong opinions, we're really vocal about things, we hate people selling us stuff. So you need to have like a strong back to be able to do that, and having a proper background and experience was just going to help you being successful in that role. So super good points to share, John. And unrelated to actually related to the show, we won't have an episode in 2 weeks. The next show is going to be in a month, so I continue every 2 weeks. It's just because in 2 weeks I'm going to be in I don't know where I'm going to be, in Salt Lake City for KubeCon, North America, with some folks on my team, the CEO, the CTO, and the salesperson. We're gonna be at KubeCon. We don't have a booth, so don't look for us on the floor. We won't have a booth, but please, if you are going to KubeCon, let me know. Ping me on Twitter, LinkedIn, email, on our Slack community, on YouTube, and comment wherever you can get a hold of me. Just ping me and let me know if you are at KubeCon. Would like to at least like say hi and just see how his life is and just meet in person, even if we don't virtually know each other. Conferences for me are not just about talks. It's basically mostly about people for me. So if you want to meet in person, please let me know. I'm gonna be more than happy to meet you in person at KubeCon. So no show in 2 weeks. See you everyone in a month for the next Devrel show. And on that note, thanks for everybody who watched us live. Thanks, always appreciating the comments and the questions. I think it makes the show even more lively to have that. So never be shy to ask a question. There is no stupid question from my point of view. Never be shy to just say commenting about like, hey, what the guest said was amazing. What Fred said was shitty. No personal attack. I'm good with this. You can say those things to me. So it's really makes the show more lively. So please continue to do those. And thanks also for the people watching the recording. So, and lastly, but none of the least, thanks, John, for taking your precious time, especially today. If I have known, I would have tried to reschedule with you in another time and put another guest. It's a great holiday for you. So happy Diwali again. And thanks again for taking the time to be on the show. That was amazing to have you on a guest. And have a good rest of the day.
Thank you, Fred. I know you thanked a lot of people, the sponsors for the show, the folks joining us, but thank you to the host, Fred,
Oh.
for hosting it.
Thanks.
Yeah,
It's a
I
pleasure.
know. Yeah, it's hard to run a whole podcast, finding the right speakers. A lot of things goes behind the screens. So thank you for doing it, and kudos to you for all the amazing work. And enjoy KubeCon.
Thanks for everything. Thanks for the good work, and thanks everybody. See you in a month for the next episode. Have a good rest of the day.